governments in our states become more and more conservative and restrictive, can the courts be the space that open up again? I convened this meeting, this workshop here, to look at ways in which we can use law to enhance and embed issues around freedom of peaceful assembly and association. The international standards make them domestic, so make them national practice and national law.
Public interest litigation is driven by lawyers from common law countries, so we understand each other.
International law is universal. It is not African, it's not Latin American, it's not European, it's not Western, it's universal. So when we have international standards, international law, international norms, those are often created at the level of the United Nations. So now the question is, how can we make those things now national?
There was a very secretive unit that was set up back in the 60s, around 68, which no one knew about until about 3 years ago, called the Special Demonstration Squad. And then they would, for a number of years, go in deep undercover into particular organisations. And the organisations we know that have been infiltrated have included everything from animal rights protesters to anti-racist and anti-fascist groups to trade union activists. Cases involving spying go to something called the Investigatory Powers Tribunal, which is a very, very secretive court where you don't have access, you don't have a right of representation or appeal or anything like that. And we've had a challenge that's sort of gone up to the Supreme Court. We're waiting for permission as to whether or not we can challenge the use of this secretive tribunal to hear these cases.
The only fundamental right in the Indian Constitution that has the word freedom prefixing it is the right to freedom of expression. All the other fundamental rights, religious freedoms, association, peaceful assembly, are only rights. There's no freedom, and this one is only a right to form associations.
Where people are trying to exercise the right to expression, assembly and association, the state can spring up various statutory provisions to stop it. They can either say you didn't give notice, they can either say that the group that wants to engage in freedom of expression is much bigger than what you are supposed to do under POSA, therefore you are limited. They can either go to the criminal nuisance charges where anything and everything you can do on the pavements, in public areas, in groups of 2 or 3 can be interrupted and definitely disrupted.
In many countries across the world, when you raise international law and norms, judges who are quite conservative then panic or they don't know how to deal with it. So actually one of the first challenge is that many judges don't understand international law. And many judges are also quite conservative and they don't know how to apply international law.
There's jurisprudence and relying on jurisprudence, but there's also just literally putting examples of how other countries and other jurisdictions have formulated their bylaws in a way that's human rights compliant. So I think there's a difference there that's worth just touching on when we're looking at building examples that other jurisdictions can draw from.
When the Anti-Homosexuality Bill was introduced, took the entire commission, the Human Rights Commission in Uganda, to a visit to South Africa, where they had encounters with an openly gay judge. And when they came back to Uganda, their views about the bill had changed. They were able to issue statements to challenge the bill, and in many ways shaped public discourse around this issue. So that could also be an approach. It's cheaper, it's more subtle, and then it actually does work.
On use of force or excessive use of force at protests.
Across the world, there is a decline in the respect for human rights and the respect for democracy. This is not just an African problem, not just an Asian problem, not just a Southern problem. It's happening across the world, that more and more people, more and more governments, more and more powerful people are trying to concentrate power within themselves. They don't want to be challenged. They don't want to have checks and balances. So there's a place where we need to figure out how we can also intervene in those countries that have historically been democratic. If India becomes retrogressive, South Africa becomes retrogressive, the rest of the world that's trying to move like Burundi have no chance. It'll take 200 years before they move anywhere. I think we have understood better what challenges there are, and in different countries there are different challenges. Some of these older democracies, and I say older democracies, are also having challenges in terms of respecting freedom of assembly and freedom of association. And we're seeing a slide back, if you wish, in those countries where governments are beginning to respect less these rights.